Each episode, we take apart the claims, moving through advertising, media, AI, e-commerce, and business. The numbers, the sources, the incentives, and the parts everyone else skipped. Because the first version of a story is usually the easiest to share. It is not always the safest one to trust. It requires diligence. This is Deeper Diligence, a podcast from Daypart.
Welcome back to Deeper Diligence. So we are here today on a special guest episode with Ben Edelman. And Ben needs no introduction, but I'll give him one very quickly anyways. Ben has done incredible work across a number of fields in advertising ad tech to help combat fraud, particularly cookie stuffing, which is why we are here today talking about Ben's work on Phia and discovering the issues there, and helped contribute to the Bloomberg article that went very viral. Ben, thank you so much for being with us here today. And then Digital Advertising, our typical co-host. Ben, appreciate the time. And if you want to give a much better introduction than I gave, I think folks would love to know a little bit about you and the work you do.
Sure. I've been interested in online ad fraud for a while, felt that some emperors had no clothes, a lot of money changing hands with minimal work to check whether the underlying advertising was properly delivered to the right people, made any difference to anything. I got a little frustrated with that and decided I'd spend some years writing it up, and years turned to decades, and there you have it. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you're fighting the good fight, Ben, for sure, and we appreciate you. So we got to start off talking about the big news, right? Phia allegedly doing cookie stuffing, which is a form of affiliate fraud. There was a big Bloomberg article that I believe you contributed to that had some pretty incredible reach, and folks really took notice, I think, partially because of who the co-founder was, Bill Gates' daughter, Phoebe Gates. And so, walk me through kind of how you started looking at Phia, kind of the journey to where we're at today.
I'm interested in any shopping plugin that fakes clicks. And it doesn't matter who the founders are. It doesn't matter rich or poor, male or female. And a lot of people have speculated, spilled ink and pixels on those subjects. Actually, I think this is the first company with a female founder that I've ever written about, which primarily reflects that most ad tech has male founders and most ad tech fraud has male founders. So go figure. Anyway, Phia has been a buzzy startup. They've gotten lots of publicity at multiple stages in their journey. I had watched that from the sidelines, but when I began to see evidence of forced clicks, that was something I definitely wanted to write about, given the significance of forced clicks, who they harm, the water under the bridge, who else has been caught using this method over the years, what happened to them, all things we can talk about, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, how did they first pop up on your radar, basically? You said when you started noticing forced clicks, but walk us through a little bit of the process and the journey of looking into this company specifically, because I know you've been doing this quite literally for decades, and it seems this cookie stuffing affiliate fraud is this particular forte of yours.
Yeah, I think I made the first webpage all about cookie stuffing, benedelman.org/cookie stuffing, which was initially in a sort of menagerie style. Here's 10 weird things that I caught. And that dates to 2004, not a typo.
Oh, wow.
22 years ago. People have been cookie stuffing for a long time. Historically, I've used the term cookie stuffing to refer to pure web activities, meaning no plugin, no exe on a Windows device, no app, just HTML, JavaScript. Maybe you could cookie stuff with CSS, but anyway, we're going to use just native web browser stuff. Versus I've called it forced clicks when there's something else involved, like a shopping plugin. Anyway, it's just terminology, so long as everyone uses the terms in about the same way or knows what other people mean. It's all
so it's interesting, right? This is something you've been looking at for forever, and you used forced clicks earlier. So let's dig into that. How does shopping plugins, and in particular this one, how did you see this all work?
The basic bargain of affiliate marketing, if you look back to the contracts and the understanding of people in the business, one, a publisher is supposed to show a link to a user. 2, the user is supposed to click on the link. And 3, the user buys something or maybe occasionally performs some other commissionable action. And all 3 of those things have to happen for money to change hands. Forced clicks take out step 2 of the process. And it turns out these steps are multiplicative. Any given publisher can only reach a small fraction of the world. Of the people you reach, only a small fraction of them are going to click, and of those, only a fraction are going to buy. When you skip one of the steps, it can have a multiplicative accelerating benefit to your business. Like maybe 1 to 10 or something. It really makes you go zoom in a hurry. So what Phia is doing here is, yes, they're skipping the step of the user having to actually click the offer. Then if the user merely has the Phia mobile app installed and the user makes a purchase, Phia is on track to get paid, notwithstanding that the user never had to click anything. I guess that could be fair in some other version of the world if that's what everyone always understood. Of course, merchants might not want to work with every shopping plugin in that world and might want to pay a different percentage. Under the actual contracts, this is clearly prohibited. So Phia is getting paid at the high rate consistent with tougher rules, but providing transactions that have a much lower level of incrementality, if any incrementality at all.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing, right? So taking a step back, just so the happy journey with this is a publisher that has a niche blog or something like that reaches a specific audience, or maybe even an influencer or something like that that creates content about a specific topic that an e-commerce company wants to tap into, but they want to measure what the impact of that is, so they give them an affiliate link, right? And this also cuts them in on the economics. That's the happy journey of how this is supposed to work in theory. Is that roughly correct?
Yeah, the happy journeys almost always begin with a web page with a person who has either their own website or a corner of someone else's site, as an influencer would. New York Times Wirecutter pays very talented journalists who need offices and equipment and health insurance and editors and the rest, but they review stuff. You might have a person assigned to review laptops. What's the best laptop to buy in 2026? I don't know. I have to test a bunch of them to figure it out. So they get a bunch of them, figure it out. They tell you to buy this new, say, Dell laptop. Here's the link. You click on that, you buy the Dell laptop. New York Times Wirecutter really does deserve some value on that action for the recommendation. And that's the golden path. That's what makes affiliate marketing tick. That's what makes companies willing to spend. And then you get a bunch of other kind of weird stuff, frankly, that's mixed in, riding the same technical rails, but providing a very different level of benefit to the merchant advertiser.
Absolutely. And typically these all kind of aggregate through a handful of platforms, right? Like Commission Junction and some other places. But then there's also these plugins, right? Now tell me, do they use those sorts of marketplaces, or do they cut deals one-on-one? How does that work? Specifically, if we zoom in on the plugins, the shopping plugins.
So first, as you say, there are a few big affiliate networks. You mentioned one, Commission Junction. These days, the biggest is Impact, which is also powering Rakuten, used to be called Linkshare. Both has its own shopping plugin and has an affiliate network called Rakuten Advertising. Anyway, try not to confuse those two because nothing good comes from being confused. In Europe, there's a big company called Awin, AWIN, which is itself comprised of multiple acquisitions over the years. So these affiliate networks certainly do serve the shopping plugins. From the affiliate network's perspective, there is margin to be made on every transaction where an affiliate is getting paid. Certain incentive to invite in all of these affiliates of all types, really good and bad. Now, the networks want a good reputation. A network that has a bad reputation might lose merchants, might have trouble getting merchants who would choose a different network that has a good reputation. So the network's incentives are not terrible, but they're not perfect either. On the margin, they'd always rather have the thing stay in, and sending a publisher, even a pretty bad publisher, away means leaving money on the table. Then, as you say, a publisher could use direct relationships. In general, there haven't been that many direct relationships replacing networks. In part, networks' fees have dropped a lot over the years. It used to be a typical fee would be 30 cents on top of every dollar. So 30 out of 130, which is a 25%-ish fee. That's a high fee. That has dropped over time. Meanwhile, there are technical barriers to setting up multiple integrations. And so a lot of companies just stick with one.
Got it. It's a simplicity play as well as a curation thing. As you said, incentives are mixed, but tend to lean good. So in particular, it's interesting that you called out this three-step process and focusing on Phia here just for a second. And you see this all the time where different parts of the process can be manipulated and they affect one another and can be multiplicative. So thinking about this specifically, the click is forced, but is it taking credit from another affiliate network or affiliate or something like that, which we've seen in the past? Or is it sending legitimate customers that then go, I got forced to this website, but it actually looks pretty good? Walk me through the specifics of that. High level, obviously, for our audience that may not have dealt with affiliate fraud in a technical sense in the past.
My article has two big sections, one about forced clicks and one about stand down violations. And we need to talk about them separately because they have different victims. They occur on different platforms for that matter. There's a lot that's different, even though it's the same underlying app, Phia, and the same monetization method through affiliate networks. So let's take forced clicks first. For forced clicks, I found that the conduct at issue was occurring only in an iOS plugin. So if you install Phia's iOS app onto your Apple phone or tablet, it needs you, really force you. The only thing it can do for you is tell you to get the iOS plugin. The app is not a plugin, but the app is like an ad for the plugin. And they'll tell you, click this, now click this, set these. Okay, now you have it. Good job.
Okay.
If you have that plugin, then when you go to one of the merchants that Phia was targeting, they won't necessarily pop up a window saying, here's our coupon codes, here's our offer, click this. They'll just do it in an invisible tab. We pick any merchant. We'll stick with Dell from before. You're at Dell.com, and as you're browsing Dell, you see an item, you add it to your shopping cart. Phia opens a second tab, which you don't really see in a mobile browser. It's not like the tab appears the way it would on a desktop, but there is a second tab. It can be shown if you click on the tab switcher at just the right time. That second tab loads the affiliate link, and then when Phia sees that the affiliate link is done loading, it closes the second tab, so you don't even see it hanging out in your tab drawer. From Dell's perspective, this is recorded as an affiliate lead, and if the user makes a purchase, Dell will pay the marketing commission to Phia as the quote-unquote last click. Now, there was no click, but nonetheless, it will be recorded as the last click. You asked who the loser is here. The primary loser is Dell shareholders, who should have kept 100 cents on the dollar. This should have been organic traffic to Dell, maybe because they advertised in a soccer game or on the side of a bus, or just the brand repeat purchases, and they're counting on some organic traffic to make advertising pay. If they had to incur the advertising expense on every single purchase, it would be that much tougher of a business than it already is. They might have incurred an SEM expense. They might have just bought a click from Google for $2 a click or whatever outrageous price they incur for that. And now they're going to be paying both Google's $2, which you don't get back when an affiliate shows up, and also affiliates X%. So the first and foremost consequence is money out of the merchant's pocket. Comes straight from the merchant's bottom line. Now, if there had been another publisher in the story, if Wirecutter had referred the user to Dell and then Phia forced the click, the money would actually come out of New York Times Wirecutter's bottom line. That's unusual in that there's a lot more traffic that is not affiliate than traffic that is affiliate. If you think affiliate is, say, 10% of e-commerce, then 90% of the time there is no prior affiliate in the click stream, and 10% there is.
And that makes sense. And so you said there's that aspect, and then the stand down aspect. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So first, stand down rules. Stand down rules, again, are a creature of contract. It doesn't have to be this way. In some parallel universe, maybe there is no stand down rule. But in our actual universe, if merchants are worried that a shopping plugin might claim commission for work it didn't do, where it wasn't the real cause. As between Wirecutter and Phia in the story I just told, Dell would rather pay Wirecutter because they really need Wirecutter. Wirecutter is incurring more expense. They're doing something that's harder, that's more unusual. And if Wirecutter has to choose between promoting, I don't know, Dell versus Samsung, right? They might choose the one that they feel treats them right by not letting other people jump in at the last minute and steal the commission that Wirecutter wants to get. So the rules say that any shopping plugin must monitor what the user is doing, not to invade the user's privacy, but to stay out of the way. If you see that the user just came to Dell from Wirecutter, then don't pop up your offer. Certainly don't force clicks, which are never allowed, but don't even present a list of coupon codes. Don't say, click here to pay Phia. No, just stand down. Don't do anything at all. Make it like you're not there. And again, it's a creature of contract. That's what the rules say. And Phia doesn't do that. They do all the tracking, actually. I pulled a packet log. They track the fact that I had just clicked through another affiliate link, and they even call it a competitor affiliate link in their internal labeling, which I can read in the packet log. But then, do they actually follow the rule for what you're supposed to do when you see a competing affiliate link? No, they skip that part of sitting quietly, not interrupting the transaction, not popping up their offer. That's a serious violation too. It's weird. It feels less serious when it's compared to the forced clicks, but it's a totally serious violation. This is what the ongoing Honey litigation is about. There's Edge litigation, various others too. They shouldn't do that. The rules have been in place. Again, these are rules measured in decades. The rules are so clear. Phia even built the software to comply with it, but then didn't comply.
Yeah, it's interesting. You use the great examples of Wirecutter owned by New York Times and then Dell and stuff like that. And some people might hear this be like, digital advertising is a dirty business. People try and cut each other out, right? But that's the one extreme end of the size of these, right? A lot of the times we're talking about much smaller e-commerce brands that are akin to like Main Street mom and pop retailers. And then the affiliate that is getting front run here is maybe some niche creator or like local newspaper or something like that, right? Those scenarios happen as well, right?
It's certainly true that I picked some big companies. Big companies are easier because everyone knows their respective roles. I'm sympathetic to Wirecutter's economics. I want to exist. I want Wirecutter to exist. I want companies both large and small to be treated right. And I'm not going to limit myself to protecting the little guys when the big guys also need it.
Totally. And I agree, right? Something is wrong because it's wrong inherently. But I'm saying that like the harm of these sorts of things are not limited to big companies. So if somebody shrugs and says, I don't know, big companies are bad and I don't like those and they rip me off. So I don't mind if they get ripped off. And it's like, that's not really the reality of a lot of what is going on in like affiliate, right? It's much smaller kind of SMB sort of companies, right? Or like individual journalists or creators. Chad, what do you got?
Yeah, no, I just want to jump in. As you guys mentioned, like other people do get harmed as well. So like some of the smaller mom and pop stores. I saw like a Reddit post on NYC influencer Snark, which Ben, I also saw you comment on this like last night, but someone just mentioned about 3 hours ago that their company was on Phia and they noticed an abnormal surge in commissions over the course of less than a week from multiple repeat customers, and they immediately deactivated. Like, what's your take on that for everyone else?
Yeah, I saw that comment. I DM'd the person who wrote it and am looking forward to learning more. Look, so many of these problems are hiding in plain view. Even what we wrote up last week, why didn't I write it up a month ago or 3 months ago? Was I too busy tying my shoelaces, twiddling my thumbs? And so I'm not surprised that people knew about this, including affiliate managers who are the first and best defense against puzzles. So many affiliate managers look the other way, just go to the next affiliate manager party. God knows this industry has parties. To me, it calls for a personality much more like what we see in the Reddit post, someone who is thinking critically, asking whether they're spending their bosses and their shareholders' money in the best possible way, and trying to make sure that everyone's on the up and up. So kudos to that person. I hope we get some evidence to substantiate the serious allegations on Reddit.
Yeah. And then Phia said that they've gone publicly stating that it was just a bug that they recently introduced. Do you buy that at all?
I don't. It's been interesting to me to see the world's response. Most of the people on social media don't seem to buy that. They recognize that this code has all the trappings of intentionality. Someone had to actually write the code, had to turn it on, but on iOS only and not turn it on Chrome, where most of the fraud testers, myself included, and most of the affiliate network testers, we spend most of our time on desktops. So that's just an easier platform to test.
Yeah. So not to cut you off, Ben, but you mentioned earlier it flags specifically internally in their system when a competitor affiliate link is coming in and then fires anyways. To me, that seems like intentionality, but without having looked at the code or reviewed it myself, doesn't that sort of thing? And this is a sophisticated fraud. I have a very hard time buying that it was some sort of bug. You don't find any validity in that kind of argument?
Again, there are the two separate practices, the forced clicks and the stand down violations. I was mostly opining on whether the forced clicks could be unintentional. The forced clicks to me seem quite clearly intentional in that they had to build the system that performs the forced clicks. And they had to give it a name and a settings in their feature flags window, and they had to activate it on mobile only. And it does not look unintentional to me. Maybe someday we'll get to the point where AI is writing software for us and the AI will write a feature that none of the people in the company knew it had written. But I don't think anyone was doing that in December 2025. I don't really think anyone's doing that today. Certainly not for real companies like this, which have dev teams and engineers. The fact that they benefit from it, it's certainly a convenient bug if it is a bug, but I just don't buy it.
Now, that would be quite the Claude reward hacking.
As to the stand down violations, lots of companies have had stand down violations over the years. And I don't think we can assume from the fact of a stand down violation in and of itself that it's an intentional stand down violation. Often there is an explanation in code review. Why did the stand down violation occur? In the examples that I tested, I tried to make it super easy for Phia. I didn't use some complicated redirect chain where there are 20 steps in the redirect, and if they miss one, they won't realize they're supposed to stand down. Furthermore, I can see from the packet log that they figured out that it was a good circumstance to stand down, a necessary circumstance to stand down. I tested a few times, then I stopped actually because it was just pointless. I was getting stand down violations every time. If you get it the first 2 times in a row, the first 5 times in a row, how many times do you want to test that? I got
Right.
stuff to do. So it didn't look to me like the companies where I have seen what I believe could be genuine mistakes, where it stands down sometimes, but if the redirect has this syntax, then it doesn't notice it. That sort of looks like, for example, a failure of your redirect processor, but I don't to be a plausible explanation for Phia. They'd need to provide some technical analysis. If they said when the redirect has this format, when this thing is in a race condition with that thing, then we can miss it. I don't know. It's fundamentally on them to explain the bug that they think they found, say it's a bug. We know all about it, but we're going to ask you to take our word for it that it's a bug. It doesn't seem very credible to me. Ultimately, they've got to convince people. They've got to convince networks. They've got to convince merchants. They might have to convince judges and juries. And the kind of evidence they've offered so far isn't going to do any of that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? Just as a counter example, I had looked at Vibe, which just got acquired by Walmart, and they were firing their own cookie on third-party websites after having visited their website. I called it out. The CEO wasn't defensive. He said, I'm going to look into this right now. And then I think 24 or 36 hours later, he responded with, this is the bug. This is why it happened. We've rectified it. Thank you. And that's, to me, is what looks like when it's legitimate error or technical error. I don't think that folks that do what you do or we do really are looking to punish people that are making mistakes or call out people that are making mistakes. The mistakes should be fixed, right? But that's a perfectly viable explanation. I haven't seen that sort of response here, really, which is just like a vague technical, oh yeah, I don't know. It was a bug. And then no explanation after that, which was concerning and didn't really help put my mind at ease. Look, we're going to keep seeing how this specifically pays out. But Ben, this is far from your first rodeo, right? You said decades. My understanding is you've worked on some other fairly high profile sorts of things in this space as well, right? Do you want to tell us briefly about those?
Oh, sure. I used to have automation that was catching these things while I slept, both adware
Nice.
and pure web, and I'd sell off the reports to merchants and networks. I stopped doing that at some point. I had a faculty job that needed full-time and attention, and I was in-house at Microsoft and couldn't really do this stuff while I was there. When I was catching those, I caught things large and small. Sometimes I'd catch one where I'd catch the guy the first hour he was cheating and he hadn't gotten around to actually making any money yet. I just caught him too quickly. That's good. It was a little bit less exciting that way. The biggest fish I ever caught, as they say, right? A fisherman loves to tell his stories. Sean Hogan and Brian Dunning took collectively more than $20 million just from, and they really were targeting eBay specifically and individually. There were some reasons for that, including the nature of eBay's affiliate program, the way they were paying out commission back then. I got them just with my normal automation. I got them with automation, sent the report off to eBay, learned a few years later that had been the centerpiece of FBI investigation and then criminal proceedings, federal court in Oakland, as I recall. Anyway, they went to jail. They paid back most of the money. Some of it they had spent. And I think it was life-changing for them. It was a big deal for eBay too, which closed its commission junction affiliate program. Initially, there was a question, would eBay continue to operate an affiliate program? Eventually, they reopened one on their own platform, eBay Partner Network, and they're much tougher. Frankly, they might be the best in the business. They're really well run. They ask the kinds of questions that smart, serious people should ask when they're spending money on online marketing. Does this thing work? What are you doing? How are you doing it? Where's the evidence? How do I know I can trust you? Kudos to those smart guys at eBay.
Absolutely. And then my understanding is you also were involved in the Honey investigation as well, right?
Oh, yeah, that was a fun one. Megalag gets a lot of credit for his first video, which was excellent, showing misleading offers, invoking affiliate links when the user clicks an X or clicks a button labeled no coupons found or pay with PayPal. By his third video, the one that was joint with me, where I published a companion web write-up with my own videos and evidence and packet logs code, we were showing that the stand-down violations by Honey were intentional. Honey was classifying users based on a variety of factors, including IP address, purchase history, account age. If Honey thought that you might be a tester, then they would follow stand down rules. But if they thought that you were pretty clearly not a tester, because what tester would have installed the app a month ago and earned this many points and what have you, and they would violate the stand down rules. So it's very clear evidence of intentionality. It is the subject of ongoing class action litigation by publishers who say their money was taken by Honey. And I guess we'll have to see where that case ends.
Yeah, no, that can take years. But, it's interesting from between when the report is published and the action is actually taken, it often can take years before vindication comes. And that could be a difficult and lonely place to be in. I know firsthand regarding some of the work that I've done as well in the space. And I appreciate you keeping up the good fight, even when folks are arguing with you and things like that, even when the technical evidence looks extremely clear. I guess my question, and advertising digital Chad, feel free to hop in here, but how do you stop this? Or can you stop this, right? What is the actual systemic macro solution to cookie stuffing is one example. I think you and I have both looked at instances of fingerprinting and retargeting and all sorts of nonsense that goes against all sorts of laws, regulations, and fraud over user privacy, everything under the sun, right? But is there actually a way to stop this, or is it just going to be kind of whack-a-mole for forever, basically?
Oh, whack-a-mole can work. You whack enough moles and the moles go live somewhere else. The eBay folks continue to reap benefits of the litigation of decades ago. Honey had special code hard-coded into their app, and literally you open up their code base, which is JavaScript inside of a CRX Chrome extension. You edit find on eBay, and you see how they whitelisted eBay. They never cheated eBay. Even if they were sure they wouldn't get caught, they still wouldn't cheat eBay. And that's just hard-coded into the app logic, I think, because everyone's scared of eBay. You put a couple guys in jail, and that sends a message, go mess with someone else. If it were up to me, if I were working for an affiliate network, say, I'd love to put some perpetrators in jail or take all of their money, all of their money, and leave them with just nothing. I want all of the money you stole. I want you to cover my costs of technical experts who are not cheap and lawyers who are even more not cheap. And next thing, there's just nothing left. The liquidation value of your enterprise is zero. So too bad about that. And a couple of those will cause people not to want to cheat, whatever affiliate network steps forward and uses that strategy. What fun that would be. But more than fun, it would have a genuine deterrent consequence. Just the existence of a jail deters people from stealing stuff from retailers. I don't know how well that's working, how many people go to jail for stealing from retailers these days. But anyway, in the online context, we can catch them in a different way. The dollar amounts are a whole lot higher. And in my view, it's an investment worth making.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that Phoebe Gates didn't write the code herself. And I know a lot of the media wants to ride this because of the name that drives a lot more eyeballs to it. But given that you mentioned it does seem like this is something that has happened before, do you think that'll happen again with maybe other content creators or anything else in that space?
Oh, I think we're going to see more affiliate misconduct. Affiliate misconduct,
oh dear,
has not ended. I have some other candidates on my list, things I would write about if I had infinite time or if I had a clearer business model to do it. This one was unusual in the brazenness of it, including the forced clicks, and that's what you see me most focused on. I'm not talking about whose father is who. That's just not what's important to me. Maybe it's important to other people. They can write what they want. Honey was unusual in that it was owned by a publicly traded company, and a big one at that. There's lots of other affiliate fraud by companies that are kind of small VC-backed companies that maybe would like to have a public issuance at some point. Anyway, deciding the right one to work on first. I think it's usually a surprise to people which thing I write about on which day, and I probably like it that way versus pre-announcing what I'm going to do next.
Ben, really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much. I'm glad for whatever you write because it does help clean up this kind of Wild West ecosystem. And hopefully the more moles that get whacked, the less moles there are to whack as people say, hey, it's just not worth it anymore. So appreciate the work that you do. Thank you very much for walking us through kind of the more technical side of Phia and kind of this phenomenon in general. Thank you for the time today. And if you have any closing thoughts, would love to hear them, but very appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for your interest. Thanks to your listeners for their interest. I accept suggestions. Anyone who has a lead they want me to pursue, I'm all ears and I will run it down to the best of my ability.
I could
My
probably
inbox
find
is
some on
also
my Instagram account.
for
Yeah.
what it's worth. Yeah.
I don't know. My Instagram account might find some leads or something. I got a lot of affiliate marketers and e-com marketers too, so we'll see.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much for the time, everybody. Thank you for listening. Ben Edelman, follow him on Ben. What's your Twitter handle?
BG Edelman.
DG Edelman, if you want to stay abreast of whatever is happening in the world of affiliate fraud and more. Thank you again for the time, and thanks for listening, everyone.